Hey there, YouTube. This is Nolan with another episode of Game Chat. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now, who else remembers Tony Hawk? Okay, now if you remember back in the 90s, Tony Hawk and Activision came out with a series of games called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. And of course they came out with 2, 3, yada 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 yada. They came out with game after game after game. It turned into an annual thing where it seemed like every year they turned out a new Tony Hawk game. And why is that? Is it because, like similar sporting franchises, there's such as Madden, they want to come out with more games, new characters, new levels? Is it just because it's a sporting game and they want to have an annual thing? Well, actually, the Tony Hawk games never named their each iteration after the current year. So for instance, we have Madden 2012, 2013, going far back as the early 90s. No, the Tony Hawk games, they actually numbered themselves. They did not ever base themselves on the year. Anyway, let me take a brief step back, and I just want to realize, come clean with all of you, that yes, I have realized lately my game chat videos have been coming in chunks. So if you've been paying attention to my game chat videos, I've had So What's Up with Pokemon. What else did I have? Honestly, I can't remember. I have the So What's Up with Pokemon. My Valve games, for instance. So those came in 2 or 3 different chunks. The What's Up with Pokemon, it's currently ongoing. And yes, I would like to start a new one right now, and that is for the Tony Hawk games. So today is our first, my first edition of the Tony Hawk games. I just want to get you started, bring you into the Tony Hawk games from the very beginning. So where did they start? Well, if you had to guess, you would probably say Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Sorry, let me bring that on the other side. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. This is for the PlayStation 1. What Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was is a third-person view, behind the shoulders look at your skater as you go and you skate throughout these different levels. You go into half pipes, quarter pipes, you go off ramps, you do all sorts of tricks. And what's the purpose of the game? Well, the purpose of the game is to complete certain objectives, such as score so many points, find the hidden item within the level. And these games were a lot of fun because these levels were actually really big. So it's not like the old Skate or Die video game where your view may be confined to the one angle. And I'd actually be a terrible reviewer because I've never played Skate or Die to a great extent. So forget it, I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, all I'm trying to get at is Skate or Die, 720 skateboarding. Those were very old games for the NES. When we got into the 64-bit graphics of the PlayStation 1 and the Nintendo 64, we opened up a whole new level of gameplay. So that's why the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games really took off. So as I mentioned, came out with the PS1 and also on the Nintendo 64. And so you take a look at this cartridge, not too exciting in terms of the label art, just says Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on a large oval, but the cartridge is blue. So there are actually a few different games for the Nintendo 64 that have different colors. If you remember the Pokemon games, those are kind of unique because each version red, blue, yellow, each one is the color of the version. So that's kind of neat. The Nintendo 64 also did the same thing with a few select games, and I have a few of those in my collection. So for instance, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is blue, Donkey Kong 64 is banana yellow, so that's kind of a neat one, and the original Spider-Man game is actually a red cartridge. So that's just a little bit of interesting tidbit going on. Now, the Tony Hawk games did come out for, I think, the Game Boy Color. I do not recommend buying those. And for the Game Boy Advance, which are a little bit better than the Game Boy Color. However, the view is what they call an isometric view. Excuse me. Where it is, imagine a top-down perspective, but they shift the camera angle so that way you can kind of see in a third dimension. I played a little bit of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I don't remember which one, 2 or 3 for the Game Boy Advance. Not a lot of fun. Definitely not nearly as much fun as for the home consoles. So if you wanted to play the Tony Hawk games, pick them up for the home console. I don't care which. So the Nintendo 64 version, the PS1 version, they're pretty much identical. Not a whole lot of differences. However, I believe that they can pack a lot more information on the CD-ROM as opposed to onto the cartridge. So pick up the CD-ROM because there might be more music, more detailed levels, but still not a whole lot of difference there because I have actually played both the THPS on the PS1 and the Nintendo 64. You won't notice a whole lot of difference. So a year, maybe 2 after, I don't remember exactly what the gap was in between games, Neversoft and Activision came out with, of course, as you expected, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. So what's different in THPS 2? Well, they've added a few different characters. They've added a few different moves. So for instance, the manual, which is a trick you can do on a skateboard where you either ride on the front 2 or the back 2 wheels of the skateboard. That's considered a manual, and I guess the front 2 would be the nose manual. That's the difference there. And while you're doing moves like these, certain balancing moves such as the manual or grinding on a rail, there will be a little balance meter coming up on the bottom of the screen, and you have to try to maintain your skater's balance. So that just adds a little level of difficulty. It's not like you can just jump on a rail, start sliding along, and do this indefinitely, because it'll get harder and harder to maintain your balance as you go along. THPS 2 also came out on the Sega Dreamcast, so there's the Dreamcast edition right next to the PS2 edition. And the PS2, that's with the green label, that's the greatest hits copy. So in the secondhand market, this is worth a little bit less than the original black label of the PlayStation version. But with a game like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, these came out in mass. Okay, so even if you do have the black label, it's not going to be worth that much more. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 also came out on the Nintendo 64, and it may have even came out on the Sega Saturn, and I don't quite recall whether or not that was factual. Anyway, THPS 2 looks pretty identical. At this point, you're probably thinking, why the heck does this guy have so many Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games? Is he some sort of crazy guy? Yes, I probably am. Well, I'm a collector, as you probably figured out by watching all these videos. And even though I have a game for one system, if I see it really, really cheap for another system, I'm probably going to pick it up. So the PlayStation version I picked up a long time ago for the full value, probably either $15 or $20, brand new. The Dreamcast version I picked up at a secondhand store for 99 cents. So I already had the game, but I couldn't pass it up. Moving on, as you would expect, Activision came out yet with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Now, what's new in this? Exactly what's new in the second game. Different skaters, new moves that you can use, new tricks, new levels. So it's pretty much the same game, but they added on a little bit to it. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 was the last Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game to be released for the Nintendo 64. However, it was also the first THPS to be released for the PlayStation 2. So, yes, as you can see, dropped a couple of games there. Games are pretty much the same. They look the same from the cover. They look similar from the back. What is different between the two? Well, PlayStation 2 can bump up a lot of extra graphics. So this game looks immensely better than this game. They are the same games. They have the same levels. Now, because they actually had different teams working on the different games, there may have been a few bonuses on one that were not included on the other. And that actually goes both ways. So the PS1 version may actually have a special bonus stage or a special unlockable character that's not in the PS2 version. The levels are pretty much the same for the basic levels, but they do have a different feel, and I definitely have to admit that as the solid truth, because I played the PS1 version first because I didn't have a PS2 at the time when I bought this, and played through the game, loved it, had a lot of fun. Eventually went back, played the PS2 version, and it had a completely different feel. I recognized the levels, but it was like when I was playing the PS1 version. I was in a dream, and then I woke up and I recognized the same levels, and they're clearer, they're better, they're more beautiful. But still, both copies of the game, a lot of fun. If I would have to pick one over the other, I would say go with the PS2 version. Definitely. A lot better graphics. The gameplay is a little bit smoother, and so that just makes it a little bit more fun. Sorry, I gotta drop out of the camera view here. Last but not least, as you would expect, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. Now, yes, this came out again for the PlayStation 2, but it also came out for the PlayStation 1, and I'm beginning to think this PS1 version was just more of an afterthought. Yes, we're moving on to the PS2. Yes, we've got another Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game. Let's give love to the PS1 owners. So they released it for this, PS1 and 2. And do they come out with more? I don't think so. At this point in the Dreamcast lifespan, I think it was pretty much dead. So I don't even think they came out with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 for the Dreamcast. Yes, they were coming out with the Xbox at this time because Xbox was in the same generation as the PlayStation 2. Generation in terms of graphics, capabilities. So we refer to different video game generations. So currently the PS4 and the Xbox One, those are in the same generation. PS3, the Xbox 360, those were in the same generation. PS2 and the original Xbox were in the same generation. Sorry, I'm probably just beating a dead horse with all this information, but for those who don't know. Anyway, again, if you had to pick, go with the PS2 version. There are different versions for different consoles. I'm not sure, but I think there may have still been a Game Boy Advance version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. And that, my friends, wraps up the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series. Now, you may think to yourself, well, I have a Tony Hawk game that you did not list. Well, that is because there are actually more Tony Hawk games going forward. However, Activision and those who are making the games changed the name, so it's no longer the Pro Skater series. They went forward, and that's what I'm going to cover in a future episode. So keep on watching my game chat videos. You'll see those coming up in a couple of weeks. Next week, I'm going to take a look at another So What's Up with Pokemon. I believe next week we're up to Generation 3. So get excited for that. I will see you next week. Please, if you're checking out my videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit that big red subscribe button up there. Leave comments down in the comments section. I'd love to hear what you think. Ask me a question. Ask me anything you want to ask me about video games. I'll be happy to answer your questions. So please get back to me. Love to hear from you, and keep on watching. Remember, every Sunday's new game chat video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next week.